Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you all for coming. I'd like to welcome everyone to Senior Parent Night 2024. Give the folks here just another minute or so just to settle in, find their seats. The folks online, welcome as well. Can we just give a thumbs up in the Google call too, just to make sure everyone can hear me? We're using a slightly different setup than we usually do. Ms. Gluck, can you just let me know if there's thumbs up in there? They can hear me. Great. All right. So again, I'd like to welcome you all. I am Sean O'Brien, the Director of Guidance here for the district. I'm joined, of course, by our school counselors, Ms. Gluck, Ms. Migliozzi, who's standing in for Ms. Schachter, Dr. Warner, and Ms. Silverstein, as well as our building principal, Mr. Jensen, and our assistant principal, Ms. Alexis Pace, who is here, but not here right now. And so I'll get us started, because I know this is a fairly informationally dense evening, and I want to be respectful to the fact that you've all been at school and work all day, and I want to make sure to get this information to you in as painless a manner as possible. So what to expect about tonight. I'll confess, this is probably, whether it be as a guidance director or as a guidance counselor, some combination of the two, probably my 14th or 15th senior parent night or night such as this. And I do get a little nervous at each one. It's a good kind of nervous. It's an excited kind of nervous. But this, for me, kind of in the wheel of the year, always sort of marks the beginning of the end for the seniors. And that sounded more ominous than it was intended to. But it really is where we begin to start our process for planning for life after high school, life after Wheatley. And for the seniors sitting in this room and online right now, even though it's closer than it's ever been before in any other September of your life, it's still probably very hard to envision. It's still probably hard to imagine what it'll be like to walk in the doors of some other institution come next year. And this is where the setup for all that starts. Having been on the parent side of this as well, I know that there are some different feelings about that for the folks in the room also. For some of you, this is your first child to go through it. For some of you, this is your last child to go through it. For some of you, you're falling somewhere in the middle, but it's still kind of a marking of a new chapter in your child's life, and it's meaningful. And so we do try to approach this process together with you in a way that gets your child to where it is they'd like to be. And so I always like to pause before we start this and just to acknowledge that, and also to ask the seniors to take a minute and take a breath to consider it as well. Senior year tends to be a little bit of a whirlwind. You had senior sunrise just a week ago. You're sitting here today, and it feels as though you've got all year ahead of you, which, yes, that's true. But you will blink, I promise you, and we'll be standing at the Tillis Center, and you'll be walking across the stage, shaking Mr. Jensen's hand, and wondering where the last 10 months of your life went. And so our goal is, when you stand on that stage, you're in as good a position as you can possibly be. And so tonight, we'll just talk a little bit about the bare bones of the process, what that'll look like, the general steps you'll take, trying to remove some of the confusion. Whether you've been through this before or not, there's many steps to the college process. Welcome. And they can sometimes feel a little bit overwhelming. We try to go through this night to demystify that a little bit for you, so you have an understanding of what those steps will look like. In terms of your individualized plan, you will sit down with your child's counselor to go over that in greater depth. So in terms of the nuts and bolts of the process, that's what we'll discuss tonight. In terms of the individual nuances, that's what you'll discuss with the team over here to the side. So we'll walk you through that this evening. In addition, I'll take us through, just before we get started, a look at some of last year's trends, some of what we saw during last year's process, and what that means for us this year. And also just a quick note before we start. We'll talk a little bit more later tonight about your transcripts, your official high school transcripts, and the process for sending those out to the colleges to which you'll apply. The counselors are in the process of reviewing your transcripts just to make sure that there are no errors that they can see on their end. That process should be done, and by this Friday, the 13th, you will receive a copy of your child's unofficial high school transcript through Parent Square. Unofficial just meaning you have not yet reviewed it with your child to make sure you don't see any errors. So what we ask families do is review the transcript with their child and identify whether or not, oh, you know what, Miss Gluck, my son took English 10 in 10th grade, but our recollection is he had an A, or, you know, it looks like this Regents exam is missing. Can you look at that for us? Or if you look at it and say, no, this matches what we understood it to be, we'll ask you to fill out the transcript verification form, which I will link in that email message that you'll receive. And that'll clear the counselors to send your official transcripts off to the college. So look for a parent square message sharing that by this Friday. And so just a little look at last year's trends. Much of what we saw last year, which I do believe I talked about a bit at our junior parent night, but we did see a continuation of the trend from the year before, which is applications have continued to increase to many institutions, especially our Ivy League and highly selective ones, while we're also seeing lower than historic acceptance rates. In some cases, I did a report to the board just about a week or so ago, and we were seeing many schools, an increasing number of schools, with acceptance rates in the single digits. Meanwhile, Ivy League and highly selective institutions are starting to reinstate their SAT and ACT requirement. And so what does this mean for us as the Wheatley college-bound student? So first and foremost, as we start to look at our application process, I've said this in junior parent night last year. For this group, I probably also said it to you in your early college planning night, but I will say it again because I like the sound of my voice and I also like saying this. College is a means to an end, not an end in and of itself. The schools to which you're going to apply are schools that should put you in the best position possible to get to where it is you'd like to be. You should not fixate on any one particular school or identify one university as the be-all end-all of your process. Each and every one of you in this room has worked to the best of your ability to be as successful as you can throughout high school. You've done things inside and outside of the classroom to set you up for success, and each and every one of you are worthy college candidates. However, colleges have a record number of students applying, each particular institution, and so there are going to be factors in the application process that are outside of your control. Receiving a result in your process that does not meet with what your desired outcome is does not mean you have failed to prepare properly. It does not mean that your planning or the work you have done is not up to par. It simply means that you received a statistical result that was not in your favor. And so what we will encourage each and every one of you to do as you go through this process is to research a number of schools that fit your needs. Each and every one of you should have a list of schools to which you would be happy attending in September. Do not lock into any given school. Do not identify any one particular institution as the institution for you. It's all too often that I find students, again, whether it was as a director of guidance or as a counselor, who fall in love with a particular institution because they can see themselves in that sweatshirt someday, or they can see themselves with that alumni bumper sticker. All of those things are good and certainly apply to those schools to which you're passionate about, but have more than one school you are passionate about. These schools exist to put you in a position to be successful in your chosen career or field. They are not things that you should aspire solely to. So please bear that in mind as you go through that process. And also continue to make sure that you're working towards this. As I mentioned, we are seeing a number of schools moving away from test optional status. We have been advising our students to make sure they at least have one set of SAT or ACT scores under their belt. If you don't yet, that is okay. Wheatley will be offering an in-school SAT for our seniors only on October 8th. That is the date of the PSAT as well. We will not run classes that morning, so students will have the opportunity to test in quiet settings. There will be no bells. There will be no other students moving back and forth. And so the registration for that is still open. I did email that out, I want to say during the first week of school. I do have reminders set to go out to send that link out every Sunday. You can also go to the Wheatley Guidance homepage, and I do have the registration link there. So if you have not yet taken an SAT, or you simply want to take it again to get your score higher, feel free to register. Again, it is only for our students. We will have plenty of seats available for it. So do feel free to avail yourself of that. Yes? Real SAT, absolutely. The fake one is for the 10th and 11th grade. That's the one we give them. But so there's that opportunity for you all as well to avail yourselves of. Those are kind of my opening notes. And as I mentioned, I'm going to turn it over to the counselors in just a minute to take you through some of the general nuts and bolts of the process. But also bear in mind, you're going to receive a lot of information tonight. Some of it you'll remember, some of it you will not. This presentation is being recorded. The recording will be shared out tomorrow, in addition to being posted on the website. Beyond that, you will have those individual meetings with your counselors as well. You can register for those on the Calendly website. Calendly links were shared out with families in the reminder for senior parent night tonight. They were also posted on the guidance department website, so you can find your counselor's name there. As I mentioned in the message I sent home, but I'll reiterate here as well, Ms. Migliozzi is here handling the day-to-day guidance work for Mrs. Schachter. During our senior planning meetings, those of you that do register for your meeting prior to Ms. Schachter's scheduled return, you will also be joined by Mr. Tom Magno. Mr. Magno is a counselor with whom I have worked with personally. He has over 30 years of counseling experience, guiding students through the college application process. He's also an alumni of an Ivy League institution himself. So Mr. Magno has seen success in the process, both from the personal and professional end. So he also has worked closely with Mrs. Schachter. They are in communication. So you are in good hands during that time frame as well. That being said, I'm going to turn it over now to Ms. Silverstein, I believe, to kind of take us through this, and then we'll kind of embark on our journey through the college application process. Silverstein.
Hello, everybody. Are we ready to do this? Okay. So I always listen to Mrs. Schachter speaking at college night for seniors.
No, you're okay. Keep going.
Okay. I always listen to Mrs. Schachter say, "I'm there with you," and I'm like, "Wow, it's going to be a long time until I'm there." Well, I'm there. I have a senior also, so I'm right there with you. I feel the butterflies. I feel the nervousness. It's the battle with your child. Do this. No, I'm doing this. Do this. No, I'm doing that. I'm right there with you. If anyone needs to talk, come find me. So as we begin the process, it starts with the application. So there's various applications. The most common ones are the common application, the coalition application, and then you have school-specific applications. We have sent out reminders to all of the students to open up a common application. Hey, boys. To open up an application to get started, well, we're helping students do that as well. The Common App is the most widely used. There's well over 1,000 colleges on it. There's different supplemental questions and sections for all of the colleges that your child decides to apply to. Sometimes it's very easy, some questions. Sometimes there could be another 3 essays in those supplemental areas. And the Common App also links directly to Naviance, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. Then you have the coalition application. About 150 colleges are on the coalition application. Some schools might be coalition only. So as you're identifying the schools that we're interested in applying to, we're going to list out, are they on the Common App? Are they on the coalition app? Or do we have to apply directly to the school? Common App only allows 20 schools. That does not mean that I want 20 schools on everyone's application. That just means that if you have other schools that you're applying to, you have to make sure that if there's a school that's Common App only, that there's a space for that on, that there's space for that on the Common application. School-specific applications, you have your SUNYs, your CUNYs, Rutgers, they are only using your individual applications. Okay, any questions about applications? Obviously, reach out, ask questions, come visit us. When you come to visit us with your college application questions, please bring your Chromebook with you. It's very difficult to do it on your cell phone. Okay, application technology. I call this alphabet soup because you have early decision, ED, EA, early action, restrictive early action, rolling, regular. There's a lot of different things. What I want you to be aware of, anything that is early decision. An early decision deadline is normally right around November 1st, and you hear right around December 15th. If you are accepted to that school that you are applying early decision, you are legally bound to go to that school. It is a binding agreement. So if you're ready to say I do, the college says I do, guess what? You guys are married and you're attending that school. You withdraw all your other applications and you're all set. Early action, priority, deadline, those are non-binding. So that means that You're applying sometimes October 15th, November 1st, November 15th, December 1st, and you find out December, January, middle of February-ish, depending on the school. Rolling admissions means that you apply, and as they're accepting, they're rolling out decisions. Regular decision is normally a January 1st, January 15th deadline, and then you hear sometime in March. Then you have the single choice early action, restrictive early action. So the alphabet soup. So a few of the highly competitive schools offer this type of application. It is a non-binding admissions policy. Students can apply to one single choice early action. You are not permitted to apply to any private school using early decision or early action until you hear back from that restrictive early action. Right? When does that happen? When you hear back from them? November 1st, typically. November 1st, typically. So just Georgetown usually has a restrictive early action. Princeton usually has a restrictive early action. As those schools, and we're looking and saying, okay, these are the schools on my list. These are the application deadlines that are available. Have your students come and sit with us. We'll help them come up with a game plan. Make sure that we're not going against any of their rules and regulations when they're applying. Okay, submitting. Take a deep breath. We will walk you through this as many times as we need to, and that's where those counselor appointments come into play. You'll sit one-on-one with us. Parents, you can come in, you could be online, and just go over how we're doing this, what we're doing, and when everything is due. So we do ask for an appointment to be made. It takes about 15 school days for your application to be processed. What does that mean? You hand everything to us. We have a 15-day window to hit submit on every piece of the application. So colleges go by when students submit. So if a student submits their Common App, that is separate from what we're submitting. It all meets up in cyberspace. So students are submitting their application. If a school requires official test scores to be sent from College Board or ACT, students are submitting that. We are submitting your letters of recommendation and your transcripts. Naviance and Common App, I said merge. If a student has not yet merged it, you need help, come find us, we'll help you. It takes 2 seconds. Then we have an application processing form and a transcript verification form. Mr. O'Brien said hopefully by the end of the week that the transcripts will be sent out via Parent Square. There'll be a link for a Google verification form where you'll go through and you'll approve your transcripts. If there are questions, problems, you note that, and we have conversations after that. The application processing form, which you'll see shortly, that is where students fill out parent signature, student signature, and then they list the colleges that they're applying to and what way they're applying: early action, early decision, regular decision. All of that comes into guidance. An activity sheet and resume needs to be uploaded to Naviance, or a student can share it with us as well. We can help support any piece of the puzzle at any time. Yes? Oh.
What is the deadline for application for the verification?
What is it?
Sure. So the transcript verification form is when we share the copy of your child's transcript with you, you as a family review to make sure it looks correct to you as well. And then you fill out that verification indicating, yes, we've seen it. We also agree that this appears correct to us, and it gets submitted there. The application processing form is when your child applies and submits their application to the different schools to which they're applying. That's what the child submits, so the counselor knows, okay, they've applied to school A, school B, school C, and school D. This is where I'm sending their letters of recommendation, the approved and verified transcript, and things of that nature. So the verification form for the transcript lets us know you as a family also agree the transcript is accurate. The application processing form allows us to process the applications your child has submitted so all the necessary paperwork goes to the school.
So if you're applying for a November 1st deadline, you said by October 15th.
Ideally, yes. We also and that should be on the next slide probably, the application, probably the one after that.
I'm gonna click on this.
Oh, it's a few, oh, Ms. Gluck has. Nope, that's the
Nope.
transcript verification form. We don't want that.
Okay.
That actually has the dates on it. So your child can locate the deadline on there, and then it'll correspond right on the chart on the processing form to the desired date that it's in guidance. Yes. I'm sorry, can't you say one more time, my friend? So oftentimes, what the colleges will do is when you submit the application, you'll indicate the dates you've either already taken the SAT or the dates in the future that you intend to take it. So they're aware those scores are coming. The deadline that you have as an applicant to submit is earlier than the deadline for some of the materials fees. So as an example, they need your application by November 1st, but they also recognize that the College Board has a little bit more time in getting the for you. So you'll still have time with an October exam if you're one of those earlier yet. Right?
And now I'm handing over to Ms. Gluck.
Great.
Hi, good evening. So I'm going to briefly go through that transcript verification form again. Again, to reiterate what Mr. O'Brien shared, as well as Ms. Silverstein, Friday is the magic date, Friday the 13th. You're going to start reviewing your student's transcript via Parent Square. Ideally, we would like that completed by the following Friday, which is September 20th. So you're going to get that on Parent Square. There's going to be a form. If you see any, errors or anything that looks off, please fill out that form, and we will certainly contact you back as we're reviewing those transcripts. If you are a student who participates in SWS, you have an additional transcript that we'd like to add to your transcript, and that's your SWS transcript. Connect with Mr. Anow, or Todd, as you call him, and he will be able to give you the form to fill out. He can sign off, and that hard copy you're going to give over to your counselor. Again, students and parents are required to sign that transcript verification form. So the next 2 Fridays are really the deadlines you're looking at. The 13th, you're going to review it on Parent Square, and the 20th, you're going to sign off on it. That does not mean that us counselors are automatically that date sending your college transcript to a university. The next step would be that application processing form. It's small up here, so I apologize, but it is available online, and there is a hard copy in our guidance office as well. This application processing form, as my coworkers know I like to say, is the Willy Wonka's golden ticket. Am I outdating the students now? Don't know Willy Wonka? This is that golden ticket. This form cannot be left in our mailbox, cannot be left on our chair, our desk, or with one of our guidance secretaries. We need to have this in our hands. Reason being is we want to make sure that everything is as accurate as possible. So when you come and meet individually with your counselor, if you are ready to move forward with us pressing submit on any forms that come into our office, such as letters of recommendation from teachers, your transcript, we need this form that particular date. You can make a secondary appointment to bring this form in, and there are guidelines on the date. So as a parent just mentioned, do we have to be in around October 15th? Well, yes, we have dates listed here, approximately when you need to be in our offices with this form to ensure that we get everything out in a timely manner. Again, as Ms. Silverstein mentioned, we have separate deadlines to submit documents to the colleges than the students. So you need to make sure you are pressing submit on your application by that deadline. And we will ensure that our documents get there on time as well. You're going to add on this form each college that you're applying to. If you decide 2 weeks later you have additional colleges, No problem. Get another form, add those 2 colleges. You don't have to rewrite your whole list, and bring it into your counselor with an appointment, and we will add it. It's especially important because schools that are not on that common application, we have to manually add so that it links and we could send everything electronically. This form has to be signed by a parent as well. You don't need your parent to be in. We can do that by Google Meet if a parent is nervous and wants to participate. But student can come in with that form as long as they have an appointment. Supporting pieces of the application, first and foremost, the high school transcript. That is going to be the most important piece of the student record because it's going to share about all the courses that you've taken here throughout your duration at Wheatley. It's going to show your growth or your consistency, how you've matured as a student. Maybe you have a specific niche of courses that you've taken. So the high school transcript is an important piece, and it has your GPA on that. College essays and supplements. This is also incredibly important. The colleges want to get to know who you are, and they're going to do that through your writing. So they want to make sure that it is a student writing their essay. Supplements, answer it thoroughly. Don't be generic. Your counselors are here to assist you. If you want to make an appointment, all I tell my students is utilize my time. Make an appointment. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to read over your essays. I'm happy to give you advice on supplements as well. This is the only part of the application process where when it says optional, it's not really optional. So if a college has an optional essay, we are strongly advising you to do that essay. That could make a difference sometimes, and it has at some institutions where they might defer a student because they didn't complete that optional essay. If a standardized test scores, which are on here, SAT or ACT, are required by the college, as Mr. O'Brien mentioned, some colleges are moving back to it. You have to send it. If it's optional, it is truly optional, and we can help you guide and make decisions appropriate for you, whether or not to send the testing scores to the schools. Activity resume is also an important piece. We're going to want you to highlight the most important activities that you find. So I often have students come in and say, Ms. Gluck, does my activity resume look good? What should I put first and last? Well, you need to tell me what you want to put first and last. I can guide you with how it's worded and how to phrase things, but you know what's most important, what you value the most. That's what we want as first, because on the Common App, it asks you, you only have a spot for 10 activities, whether it's community service, sports, a job. We want to know to you what is most important. The high school transcript colleges are looking for, they're looking for that 3 year, so through 11th grade. That also includes your Regents level courses taken in 8th grade if you have, your unweighted and weighted grade point average. That does not mean they are not looking at your senior year grades. Many colleges have even asked for first quarter grades, so we want you to keep your academic rigor up. We want you to stay consistent across the board throughout your entire time here, and most certainly many colleges will look at that mid-year grade as well. Remember, in order to verify that you graduated, they're going to get that final transcript, so they don't want to see any inconsistencies. So we want to make sure that you're staying. We're going to make sure that we're in close contact with you. If we see that you might be struggling somewhere, we're going to discuss a plan with you to make sure that you're coming out with your senior year strong. It's really about that academic growth over your entire time at high school. So you might have started off in Regents level classes and you might continue in Regents level classes. That's fine. We want you to challenge yourself, and you have, to the best of your abilities. If you maybe 1 year it wasn't your strongest year and then you've shown that growth, that's important to the college. Consistency in grades, your course selections, again, those first quarter grades, mid-year grades, and then the final GPA upon you graduating will go up to the college. I am going to now turn it over to Ms. Migliozzi, and she is going to start talking about the college essay.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice to get to meet you all and go through this process with you. So I'm pretty much going to piggyback off a lot what Ms. Fluck had said. So the college essay, this is your opportunity to show your voice and your creativity. This is really your time to show them who you are beyond just a student. And like Mr. O'Brien was saying, this college process becomes more and more competitive. So the essay and your voice has a lot of weight to it. You want to write something that's engaging, that captivates the reader's attention. The admission counselors are reading thousands of essays. So you want yours to stand out and make an impact. That will make a huge difference in the selection process. Additionally, make sure someone is proofreading them. Get different sets of eyes because you get used to it after a while looking at the same thing. We've all done it where we miss a typo. So make sure that you're getting multiple eyes to read this because a typo will also draw attention to the admission counselor. In that same breath, we recommend that you be careful asking for too much advice. This should be your voice, your narrative, your story, and asking for too much advice might change that. So you can take advice and take it with a grain of salt. It's suggestions. It doesn't mean just because someone has advice for you, you need to make that change. But be open and don't forget to not lose your voice in it. Watch for supplemental essays. So you'll see in the common application when you're applying to certain colleges or programs, there's going to be a section where there's going to be supplemental essays that ask you additional questions. These are just as important. You want to answer these with as much detail and that same narrative as your college essay. If you're answering the question why you want to go to that college, be specific. They want to know that you're invested in that school already, that you've shown intentional interest in the school, and they want to see that it's well written as well. And then same thing with those optional essays. They're not really optional. They're strongly recommended. This can be the difference of you and another candidate. And it's really just think of it as another opportunity to tell them who you are and explain why you would be a good candidate in their school. Next, we have the letter of recommendation. So you will get a letter of recommendation from your school counselor. And this letter highlights everything that you have achieved throughout your high school career. You are encouraged to share as many personal details about who you are with your counselor and your teacher. So we can write something that really captivates the admission counselor and shows them that you're a well-rounded, holistic person, not just a strong athlete or just a strong student, something that really tells them a full story about you. And the best way to do that is with the college brag sheet. For the first time, I think this year, it's going to be on Google. So the link is going to be on the website as well as embedded in this presentation. In that Google form, you'll see many questions that give you the opportunity to share everything about your interests, your hobbies, things that we wouldn't know about you. So make sure that you fill that out.
And just to give a bit of color to that too, folks, this is a change historically, and we likely mentioned it during junior parent night last year as well. The brag sheet has historically lived on Naviance, and we ask students to go into their Naviance account and fill that out. This year, unfortunately, for reasons that are a mystery to me, Naviance has decided to discontinue the brag sheet and eliminate it, which also eliminated the responses of any students who did do what we asked of them last year and filled it out. So even if you filled your brag sheet out last year, we do ask that you go right onto the guidance department website. It'll be linked there. It'll be linked in this copy of the presentation I sent home as well. Just please do fill that out also, just so that information is available. It's a frustrating decision by Naviance, but we're going to pivot to this just to make sure that we are able to collect that information.
So where is this action?
So it's a Google form that you'll fill out. That'll be shared. It'll be on that link and also posted on the website.
Is it just for the guidance counselors to see, or?
We'll see it. Teachers will also have the ability to access it as well, but it won't be available anywhere else but there.
Access and edit, or
Just access, we wouldn't edit, yeah, we wouldn't edit the grade.
So yeah, you'll get that letter of recommendation from your school counselor and also from your teachers. So you're gonna have to select teachers that will write this letter of recommendation for you. You wanna choose teachers who can speak highly about who you are. Usually we recommend an 11th grade teacher, but since this is a small school, if you have a teacher that you had in 10th grade that you really connected with and had a great relationship with, that's totally fine. You can ask them, but just make sure that you make that personal connection with that teacher and ask them, because if they are taking time out of their schedule to write this letter. So make that time to meet with them if you don't see them every day, and let them know that their class meant a lot to you, or that you really learned a lot from them, and that will, I think just enhance your letter. And then on is this on Naviance?
The FERPA waiver form, you'll fill that out in Naviance.
In Naviance.
So as you link your common application account to Naviance, there'll be a form that asks if you would like to sign the FERPA waiver. You'll indicate, yes, and then you'll be able to move on. That enables us to actually submit your documents.
Okay. And then one more note on the letters of recommendation. Wheatley staff, we submit the letters through common application to coalition schools. It's through Naviance only. So you don't need to invite the counselor or teacher through the common app. We can do it automatically. And then if you did want to ask someone outside of Wheatley for a letter of recommendation, you can check in with your counselor. They can tell you more about the procedure for that. So say if you have a coach outside of school or a director of a program that you were involved in that you would like a letter from, there's a different procedure for that. So just meet with your counselor.
Typically one from the counselor and then two additional recommenders. Some schools will require fewer than that, but they'll indicate that as a common application. And then the student has the ability to choose which recommender they'd like to send to which student.
Like 3 or 4 letters, okay? Or
It's okay. It would be more than you need, but it certainly wouldn't be something that we would tell you couldn't do, of course.
And then the activities section. So like we said, the landscape in college admissions is becoming more and more competitive, and your activities play a tremendous role in admissions. So highlighting all the things that you do outside of being a student. So whether that's extracurricular activities in and outside of school, make sure you list those. If you've ever been involved in community service, volunteer work, you want to highlight that. If you have athletic, musical talents, awards, and recognitions that you've received over your time in high school, you'll want to highlight those. If you do work, that's important that schools see that. Or if you've done like summer experiences or internships, that's great and want to highlight that. Anytime you've been in a leadership position, so if you've been a captain of a team, a president of a club, those are great things to highlight in your activities section. And this will be in the resume in Naviance. So like Ms. Gluck said, you want to order them in the weight that they hold to you. So if being an athlete is something that you feel like is most important to you, you'll want to list that first. If being an honor society is something that means the most to you, you want to put that first. But like she said, there's only 10 spots, so make sure you order them appropriately. And now, Dr. Warner.
Good evening, everyone. I can't believe that you are all seniors. It went so fast for me. So for the SAT and ACT, as Mr. O'Brien said, we do encourage that you take at least one of these at some point. You are responsible for sending those scores. So if you are opting not to apply as a test optional student, please be sure to send those scores directly from either College Board or the ACT. This is really important because sometimes students assume that we send that along with your transcript. So this is something that you do need to do. And so from institutions are test optional, as we've talked about. In a few weeks, actually next week, I think our college reps are going to start visiting. You can actually get some FaceTime with those reps and ask them like what their thoughts are. Where are those ranges? Where were those ranges last year? Where do you fall? Typically, if you're within their average, you can certainly submit them, and those are conversations we could have with you when you come to meet with us on an individual basis. For scholarships and financial aid, it's important to remember that every institution has an Office of Financial Aid on campus. So during your time there as an applicant, before you're there, and once you are as a student, please utilize this office. This will be very important to you. There are grants such as TAP and Pell, and those are fundings that would not need to be paid back by the students, whereas loans can either be from private lenders or government-backed agencies. So this is all information that I definitely recommend you ask when you're there on campus, what would be appropriate for you. On Naviance, there is a cost calculator that we can point out to you in those one-on-one meetings where you can start to just guesstimate where certain costs are lying as far as housing, room and board, tuition, student fees, etc. So that is a great tool to utilize. Yes.
For the grants, those processes start once you accept it to certain college, right? Not before that.
So a lot of it will be beginning with the FAFSA. So the FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. This gets very detailed. So I know that this is a lot of information, and we can absolutely answer these questions as we go through this process. This is an application separate from your common application. And this is something that you will need your tax forms from the last tax year to fill out and complete. But once the families complete this, which it won't be available until around December 1st, that's when you will be notified about what types of funding is available to you.
What do you have for process?
So that is December 1st.
So on or about, one of the changes to FAFSA, which frustrated us all last year, the government changed the FAFSA form. It used to go live in October. It used to go live October 1st. They pushed the opening date back. They redesigned the FAFSA. They streamlined it. They shortened it. But then they experienced a number of technical issues, which led to it opening much later than their targeted December date. So they did obviously eventually get it open, and they are promising us that it will open on or about December 1st for this year. But just be aware that there may be some glitches. Our recommendation, though, is on or about December 1st, check on that FAFSA website, look for it to open. The sooner you're able to fill that out, the better. We do recommend that students complete their FAFSA form and send it into the colleges earlier rather than later. That way, the college's financial aid offices, once they render the admissions office renders their admissions decision, has the ability to get to work on any financial aid packages they may be willing to offer. Some may come in the form of those grants. If you don't qualify for grants, you still may fall into the range to be offered lower than normal interest, subsidized or unsubsidized student loans. So those opportunities are there. Oftentimes, I get the response from folks, "Oh, Mr. O'Brien, we make too much money. It doesn't make any sense to fill out the FAFSA. We're not going to get anything anyway." My recommendation is still always to complete the FAFSA form. The reason being, if your financial circumstances change, you have the ability to go in and amend the FAFSA, and then the financial aid office may still be able to make some shifts in order to assist you. If you don't have a FAFSA form on file, and it's after the FAFSA completion deadline has passed, then unfortunately there's not much financial aid can do for you, and their hands are typically tied. So even if you don't anticipate qualifying for financial aid, it is still prudent to complete that form. A lot of folks just feel as though the time they would need to take to do it is not worth it. again, among those changes, they do use the IRS data retrieval tool. They are able to kind of connect. That's what the FSA, the Federal Student Aid ID, is about. It connects to your tax return, so it will populate much of that information for you to make it a little bit more, I don't want to say quick and painless, but quicker and less painful. So still do consider completing that FAFSA, even if you don't believe you would qualify for that aid.
This makes sense. Okay, so the November 1st is a date that you can submit applications early, right?
Mhm.
Would you hear back from a college before this opens up? And then, does that make sense?
It could potentially happen.
And then how would you know what you won't know until all of this?
Good question.
Yeah.
So you will get decisions during this process at different times. Unless you're applying to a school early decision in which you're kind of locked into accepting the offer. You'll likely have a number of different colleges that your child is deciding between. Your financial aid packages will be released by different colleges at different times as well. So it's very common for, say, in February, a student have offers of admissions to some schools, having the financial aid information to some of those schools to which they've been accepted, but not others. The deposit date for colleges is May 1st. So by that time, you'll have your information in hand to make your most informed decision possible, unless you don't fill out the FAFSA until much later than we recommend. So every once in a while, there are those students who wait until March or April to fill their FAFSA out because the form doesn't close until June, and they think, okay, I have all this time. While that is true, the college may not have time to generate your financial aid package, in which case you're essentially making a decision blind. So I'm glad you brought that question up. The earlier you complete the FAFSA, the more likely you are to have all of the information in front of you when your child makes their decision as to where they're going to deposit day one.
So the FAFSA form,
Oh, sorry.
so the FAFSA form, you put the colleges that you fill out on the form that you give to your counselor.
Yes. So the FAFSA form will allow you to list 10 colleges to which you are applying. So what I typically recommend in that instance, because we do have a number of students who apply to more than 10 schools, you list the 10 schools to which are your higher priority. Once you receive your financial aid package back from those schools, you remove that school from the FAFSA because they have it in the database. They don't lose it once you remove them, and then you add those additional schools up until you've gotten to the point where you've cycled through and submitted the form. Was that your question as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Applying for early decision, if you are applying for decision, if you do get accepted, again, if this December 15th, you know that the full time is in. However, you don't know how much aid you're getting. At that point, are you able to back out, or are you
Yes.
still have to?
So one of the ways in which early decision agreements could be terminated would be if you receive a financial aid decision from that college and it's one that does not put you in a position to get. So if your financial aid package does not meet the need that you would require to be able to attend an institution that does enable you to actually step back from your decision.
And just to also go off on that, when you are completing this, it will also have you be eligible for funding at certain institutions. So some colleges do review the FAFSA and utilize that for, on the next page, we'll see the CSS profile at the bottom. There's a college scholarship service. That's another service from the College Board, so that will help qualify you for potential additional funding. On Naviance, again, there are a lot of tools that we can go through, but there's access and connections to scholarships.com, FastWeb, College Board, all of which are vessels to show you what are reliable scholarships. I really would caution you with like Googling, like scholarship for college, because a lot of those are not vetted. So it is important to go through these reliable websites when you are searching for that information. And really, I mean, I think when you're doing these searches, what I would just also encourage you to do in Naviance, there are cost calculators that you could set different parameters for income and the other fees that are there. So when you meet with your counselor, we could review that as well.
And we're just about coming to the end of the presentation, but just to kind of tie a few things together, just some things that I ask folks to remember, whenever we reach the end of this night. Make sure you're seeking out your school counselor for support and you're reading the emails from guidance. We will send out information on things such as college rep visits, who will be coming here to Wheatley, information on reminders about approaching deadlines, information about the transcripts that you'll receive through Parent Square. So just do please make sure just to check in with your counselor, check in with your email. Also check your emails from college representatives. They may ask you questions as well. But just first and foremost, we talked about that initial one-to-one counselor and student meeting. That is far and away from the last meeting that you will have on the process. That is expected to be exactly that. It's not an event, it's a process. So you're going to continue to meet with your counselor throughout the fall, checking in with them, letting them know, updating them on where you're looking to apply, updating them when you apply. And one thing we do ask you to remember as well, because all too often seniors do tend to forget that the guidance office exists once they get their acceptance letters. Please let us know where you've gotten in as well, so we can make sure to update Naviance. That is something that we utilize for the younger students. All those scattergrams and data that you look at, those were built from the information that was provided to us by seniors that came before. So please just do make sure you're continuing to update us on where you're accepted. Make sure you're attending open houses and admissions rep visits. Engagement with different universities is also something that factors into many colleges' decisions. So if you see that a college is going to be visiting here at Wheatley and it's one you're interested in, do make sure you sign up for that visit on Naviance. I will also send out a list of the upcoming college visits via Parent Square to families at home. But Naviance Seniors does update much more quickly than I would update the messages on Parent Square. Those are typically weekly. So please do make sure that you are following through on Naviance. We already have quite a few strong colleges joining us this coming fall, as well as some on-site admissions events planned where colleges will actually be visiting us here to meet with students one-on-one and actually render an admissions decision and acceptance or an admissions result on the spot. So please do make sure that you sign up for those on Naviance as well when they post it. Yes?
For the admission site,
So some will and some won't. Some schools will waive the application fee. Some will ask that you complete the application as normal. But then rather than have to wait the period of time it would take for them to review your application in the office, you would meet with them here at Wheatley and they would give you your decision on spot. No, our on-site ones are not. Those are typically counted as regular decision admits. So you find the result more quickly. However, you're not bound. Well, when you get into the
Typically, the two that will definitely have St. John's here. Their application in general is a free application. And then the other one we are looking to host as well, Hofstra, which we hosted last year, usually will give us an application fee waiver, and we'll provide that information.
Yeah, as it comes. Also make sure that when you do decide on your colleges, I mentioned that May 1st deposit date, make sure you visit that campus before you deposit. We talked a little bit before about sometimes students fall in love with the idea of a school. It's really important that you expose yourself to the reality of that school as well. Looking on the website and in their promotional materials, please remember, colleges pay photographers a lot of money to take a lot of pretty pictures of their campus, and sometimes that will not match the reality. Every college has a picture of their website of the brand new state-of-the-art library. Almost none will have a picture of the sanitation department building right next door outside the gate. So make sure you give yourself the opportunity to see that for yourself in person. And then finally, also watch your deadlines. We talked about application deadlines quite a bit during this presentation, and the dates October 15th, November 1st. But also, and the reason I want to raise this year is we've seen this in increasing amounts. Sometimes seniors also forget once they get in, there are still deadlines. So especially if you plan to live on campus, there will be deadlines to apply for housing. Just because you're admitted to the university doesn't mean you're guaranteed housing in some cases. So they'll also have a deadline for you to request on-campus housing. If you intend to live there, you need to make sure you're reading through all of the information, all the literature you receive from the campus, so you can make sure you're in keeping with all the deadlines that they'll have as well. Not just the application deadline and the May 1st deposit deadline, but also housing application deadline, housing deposit deadline, class registration deadlines. That's things that you'll also need to keep an eye on. And that information, students, goes directly to you in those cases. It'll be mailed to you. We don't get CC'd as the guidance department. In many cases, your families don't see it as well. So if you filled out your application using your email address, that'll become their primary mode of contact with you. So if you're accustomed to kind of folks nudging you and giving you a gentle reminder, just recognize that in this particular instance, you will be responsible for kind of funneling some of that information. All right. And then dates to remember. We talked a lot about different pieces, but I promise it really is a simpler process than sometimes it may seem when you're hearing about it. Once you live it, it does kind of break down. So starting tomorrow, actually, really now, if you wanted to log on to the website on your phones, but you can click those Calendly links and make those meetings for the one-to-one appointments with your guidance counselor. I recommend doing that sooner rather than later, just so you can begin your process. September 13th, this Friday, is when we do plan to share out your transcripts with you. September 20th is when we'd like you to complete that transcript verification form. That's where, again, you let us know if either something looks amiss to you on the transcript and you want us to check it, or if everything looks the way you feel it should as well, and you want to check that off so we're clear to send it out to colleges. October 8th is the date of that in-school seniors only SAT exam. So if you do still want to take an admission of the SAT, an administration of the SAT, you're able to register and do so then. November 1st is the early admissions deadline for most colleges. We did mention October 15th as well. We don't see that for as many schools, but a lot of the Southern North Carolina, Carolina schools, we do see some of those October 15th deadlines, but November 1st is the most common. December 1st, we'd like to see most, if not all, application forms submitted to guidance. And the reason for that is because we want to make sure you have all of your applications information out. You're really done with your application. So when you come back from that winter break in January, you refresh, you don't have this hanging over you anymore, and you're ready to go. And then after December 1st, again, FAFSA forms can be submitted. I do have a playlist of videos from Miss Amy Thompson, Financial Aid Director at St. Joseph's College, to give a little bit more color to that. Some of the information in there is not updated, but Ms. Thompson will be sharing a more updated series as well fairly shortly, so I will get that out to you when it comes by. But there is a lot of good information there just to kind of prime you for the financial aid process. And then, of course, May 1st deposit will be due to the colleges of your choice. So main action steps for leaving here tonight: schedule that one-to-one meeting with your guidance counselor, review your child's transcript with them after it's sent home, and fill out that form. And then you'll be able to generate next steps with your child's counselor in terms of where you'll go individually from there. But I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. And just if there are any questions, whether it be here or for the folks at home, please ask away.